we go. All right, hi, it's nice to meet you. My name is Madison.
Hi, thanks for taking the time to see me. I'm not exactly sure why I'm here, but it's all good.
Absolutely, I'm happy to meet you. It takes a lot to come here for the first time. But before we begin, I need to let you know that whatever you say here is just between us. I can't even tell your husband if he's, for some reason, starts asking questions. Like, I'm not sure why he would, but if anyone came around in your family asking questions, I couldn't tell him.
Okay, that's fantastic. I haven't been hiding anything from him, but he definitely doesn't know everything. So even if I tell you I want to murder a guy, you can't tell him, huh?
No, actually, not exactly. If it involves harming others, if that involves harming or abusing children, abusing dependent adults, abusing elders, and even like hurting yourself, I have to report that. So, with that being said, do you understand the confidentiality agreement?
Yes, I do. I don't exactly want to hurt him. I was only joking.
Okay, good. Glad to hear you didn't actually want to hurt him. You know, it's good to have a sense of humor sometimes. Now, what brings you in to see me today?
Well, funny story actually. The other day when I got home from a night of partying, my kids started laying into me about God knows what. I wasn't really listening. I went into the dining room and saw my husband had laid out a stack of papers. And he threatens to start signing these divorce papers if I don't do something about my drinking.
Sounds like you've been consuming a lot of alcohol a lot lately, and your family doesn't really like that.
Yeah, I guess so. It really isn't that big of a deal. I go out with my girlfriends after work for a little nightcap and a handful of times a week, and all of a sudden my family thinks I'm some kind of monster.
So, how does it make you feel?
Of course I feel deep down, I feel terrible that they feel terrible, but I have no idea what to do. I don't really see my drinking as a problem yet. When I get too drunk, I always get an Uber, and I'm always safe about it, so I don't really see what the big deal is.
Yeah, I mean, that's like absolutely wonderful. You take precautions when you are drinking. And I really like that you consider your safety when when you do decide to drink, whatever that may be.
Yeah, so now here I am talking to you, and I guess we're gonna figure out what's wrong with me then.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with you. There's just things that we, together that we need to work on to get you and your family together again and, happy the way it should be.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear that. There weren't a lot of people there for me growing up, and I'm wondering if maybe that has, something to do with my having a little bit of a drinking problem.
I mean, I noticed that you just said you do think you have a drinking problem. Do you truly believe that?
Wait, really? Did I actually say that just now? Oh man, that's a Freudian slip, I guess. Those really exist. Yeah, I guess I do have a little bit of a drinking problem.
And you know what? We're going to figure this out together. And whatever's going on in your life, we're going to take care of that no matter what.
All right, thank you so much. I'm kind of glad my husband got me to come.
I mean, he may kind of given you an ultimatum, and ultimatums, essentially aren't exactly what you want to have, but it was really that it was you that, came. It was you that made that final decision, so thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Of course. Now, let's start at the beginning. You said you didn't have very many people around you growing up. How do you think that affected your childhood?
Well, my parents divorced basically as soon as I was born. And my mom was hopping from one man to the other while my dad barely visited me on the weekends like he was supposed to.
It's a really hard thing to deal with as a kid. Seems like both of your parents weren't really around.
Yeah, and since I was an only child, I was quite often very lonely, and I did everything I could to get my parents' attention. And at first, I was doing things, all the right way, and then things went bad. I think I probably tried to be an overachiever, and when I couldn't get attention that way, I kind of gave up.
Right. So you shouldn't have to fight for your parents' attention like that. But what do you mean the right way and then the bad?
Well, at first I did everything to be, the perfect golden child. I made every varsity team. I everyone I tried to be on, I made it. I was the student body president. I was leader of the debate club. I played the trombone pretty gosh darn well. On top of all that, I had great grades. I was a star.
Wow, that's really impressive for a kid. You were pretty much in all the clubs and excelled at everything you tried to do.
Yeah. It was looking like I was going places, but I did it all so I'd get one sliver of recognition from just one of them. And, they were both alcoholics, and it was nearly impossible to get their attention away from their booze. And when I did get their attention, they were hardly ever sober.
How did, as a young child, how did that make you feel? Or, when you became a young adult, how did that make you feel?
Pretty awful, actually.
So, when you were getting into high school and whatnot, what happened?
Well, I thought if you can't beat them, join them.
Would it be okay to ask if you to elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. What do you want to know?
Well, what do you mean? If you can't beat them, join them. What do you literally mean? If you don't mind me asking.
Well, I started to drink, basically.
So what age did you start to drink?
About when I was 15 or so.
Okay, so you started drinking when you were 15. That's quite a young age.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
That's okay. We're here together today to make sense of things that happened and to get things to where you want them to be. Everything is going to be all right. And if it's okay with you, can I ask some more questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So why did you start drinking? What was one of the first things that happened?
Well, it wasn't like it was my intention to turn out like my parents. It just sort of happened. It was your stereotypical situation. I got with the wrong crowd. These new friends were drinking, and I liked these new friends, so I started partying with them.
So when your parents had found out that you were drinking, how did they feel? How did they react?
Well, when my mom found a bottle under my bed, she went ballistic and tried to tell me how wrong it was and that I didn't want to end up like her.
And then what did your father think?
Well, when my mom called him up to tell him, he acted all mad and whatnot. Then I went to his house for the weekend, and just like I was usually supposed to, and he had the same bottle of whatever I was drinking at the time. The same stuff that I had hid under my bed. It was kind of like a celebration, joining the club.
So it sounds like your mom was mad, and then your dad kind of seemed like he was excited for you to join in on what he liked to do.
Yeah, in a nutshell, at first.
What do you mean at first?
So initially, my mom was mad like a mom's supposed to be. Then almost immediately, she didn't give a crap. I didn't even have to hide it anymore. I'd grab one of her beers from the fridge and walk right past her, and then down into my room, and, back to nothing again.
Wow, that's really hard. And what about your dad?
Sometimes I think that was worse than my mother going back to ignoring me.
How was it worse?
He basically added fuel to the fire because, we ended up drinking together quite often.
Yeah, quite often. That does not sound okay. How was this affecting your grades and all your extracurricular activities? Because you were doing really well. Captain of the debate team, you were student body president, grades are great. So what ended up happening? I feel like this had to have affected you bad.
Well, I managed it really well for the first few years of high school, but I pretty much plummeted in my senior year.
Oh, wow. What happened your senior year?
My senior year, I just stopped caring about literally everything. And, my grades, my clubs, myself in general. I kept the friends that were enabling me, and that's about it.
With your home life being the way it was, I can see how hard it was to keep yourself on track, your parents and friends were enabling you so much that it probably felt inevitable that you were going to, keep this path going.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree. I was fulfilling the stigma of being a child of an alcoholic, but it's like I really didn't care.
So what happened after high school? I'm assuming you graduated and whatnot.
Yeah. So after high school, I just went straight to working at a factory where I'm from is the RV capital of the world, and I was making decent money and still living my partying lifestyle. And the rest of my friends stuck around too, although all of our parents had hoped we would go off to college.
Yeah, I mean that's typical for parents, I suppose. So you say you just went straight into the workforce right after high school, coming from the RV capital of the world. I heard that's a good money when you're making RVs and whatnot. Do you regret that a little, if that's okay to ask? You sound as if that was not a good thing, that not everyone's meant to go to college.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that there was a huge push to go to college at the time. And they say if you don't go, then you're not going to make much of yourself. So, I mean, look at me now. I have a wonderful family, but I don't have much of anything else.
I don't think there's anything wrong with not going to college, especially if you're making a decent living. But, so how did you meet your husband?
Well, we had actually met at work. He had gone to a different high school in the area, and we had never met before. We were in the same unit, and we were making these awnings for those RVs.
Right.
And I didn't originally give him a second glance because I was very focused on the job when I was working, and too much was at stake to make a mistake, is what the boss always said.
So did your husband approach you then, since you weren't really checking him out at the time?
Actually, when I finally did take a second glance at him, I pursued him like crazy. It was lunchtime in the break room when I laid eyes on him. We made eye contact, and that was pretty much it for me.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, so how long after did you start dating?
Oh boy, it had been almost a year until he took me on a date. He was seeing someone else at the time, and I just had to have all of his attention. I don't condone cheating, but I did make sure I said at least a few words to him every day. And then after a while, he realized he wanted to be with me.
Sounds like that attention made you feel really good.
Yeah, it did. And then we lived happily ever after.
I'm sensing a little sarcasm in your tone. What happened after you started dating?
To be honest, it was amazing at first. As usual, he kept my drinking to a minimum because he just wasn't going to tolerate it. He's just not that kind of guy. I finally found a love greater than alcohol. So we went on trips, we got married, and then we bought a house, and I was living the American dream, and my life was really perfect.
Yeah, well, that sounds amazing. Where did things kind of start, and then things kind of started to go downhill?
Yeah, kind of.
Would you like to talk a little bit about when things kind of went downhill?
Well, it's been so long since I thought about when things went wrong. But yeah, I think I need to talk about it probably more than I really want to.
I just want you to know that we don't have to talk about anything that makes you uncomfortable. I want you to make sure you're okay throughout this whole session. I care about how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as bad as you think. I just started drinking again. I had this little reunion with my friends, and it escalated quickly. My husband told me not to have more than one beer, and he told me the night before I left, that's it, one beer. And I left the house, and, by then we had our 2 kids, and I obviously wasn't going to try and risk losing any of them. I guess you could say that night they kind of lost me.
So you were innocently just, meeting up with some friends that you hadn't seen in a while, and you just told yourself, I'm going to have one drink, but you came home kind of the same as you used to be.
Yeah.
And then how did your family react?
Well, how do you think? I mean, I'm here now, aren't I? 10 years later.
It seems as if things didn't get better like you had hoped. So Would you like to keep going? Can we keep our concession, not our concession, I'm sorry, our session going?
Sure. I mean, I've got a little more time before the kids get out of school.
I don't want to keep you too long, so you just let me know when you're ready to leave, and I think it's great. We get to talk to each other after today. And so far, I think you're a really neat person, you know? I'm glad to hear your story. You've lived a very interesting life, you know, kind of a hard life, but...
Thank you.
So what happened when your husband found out you were drinking again?
At first he was just, really angry with me, and, we had some arguments about it, but I was able to kind of keep things under wraps and only drink when he wasn't around or hide things from him, things like that. So it would just be one incident at a time.
Yeah, I mean, that's what people tend to do when things aren't really going the way they're supposed to. You know, you want to hide it from your family. You want to keep things going as smooth as you can. So how did he find out that it had become a problem like it used to be?
Well, it's not the kind of thing you can really hide. So, I mean, I would get away with doing things like, hiding alcohol and bringing it with me to functions and leaving it in our car and maybe saying I needed to go out and check something and then go and have a drink out there, and eventually if he's only seen me consume 1 or 2 beers and then here I am wasted, he started to kind of catch on.
Getting a little suspicious about things.
Yeah.
So did he take a sip of your drink and find out it was vodka, not lemonade, or he knew you were his wife, he just kind of knew the signals that things weren't actually going the way? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that, after a while, if you drink too much, it's obvious to everyone.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of knew, but I think they all pretended that they didn't know in front of me just to avoid the confrontation. But I think that I definitely have some anger, and I think it would come out when I would drink too much, and so my whole family kind of knows now.
Yeah. So that's when your husband decided that enough was enough, and he wanted you to get better.
Yeah.
So I think that's what he really wanted. I don't think he really wanted to divorce you. I think he just wanted to make a drastic statement to see you get better. So I'm really glad that you came, and I think that's what ultimately he wants. He doesn't want that ultimatum. He wants you to get better.
Yeah. And I don't want to lose my family over it, but I really don't want to stop either. I'm afraid to stop. So it's something that coming here is, I'm doing this, to make him happy, but I don't really know how I'm going to stop.
But do you think you want to stop? Do you think you're at that point of, after everything, the last 10 years, you think you're ready to make that little baby step?
I know I should stop, but I don't really think that I want to stop.
No, that's
I'm
okay.
afraid.
No, it's okay. I mean, maybe after you see me a few times, we get to talking. Well, I'll show you. Yeah, we'll definitely, as long as you keep coming, I think things will get better, and hopefully you'll get to the point where you want to stop, and where, at least, because that's the first step, is when you're ready. When you think you're ready, and I'm going to try and gently push you, not hard, but get you to where I think you'll want to, because you know deep down you want your family and everything to be super happy, and back to that American dream you had, which sounds like you do. I think you do.
I do. I'm afraid to lose my family, and I'm afraid to lose my husband and my children and all of those things, but I'm also afraid to lose drinking because it seems like it is such a big part of who I am, and that's scary to take away that part, even if it's a bad part that I know I need to get rid of.
I think with time because I know deep down you're gonna bring to light where drinking really is the issue, and that's what we need to let go.
Yeah, I know. I don't really know where to begin with, you know, all of my friends drink. It's very hard because it's a huge part of who I am, and it's a huge part of my social life. Everything is centered around drinking. I couldn't imagine going to a party where there was not alcohol.
You know what? We're gonna find you an organization that, you know, hopefully you'll find friends who are similar to you, and you'll start having a new kind of fun where it won't involve drinking. I think the biggest thing you need to do is to let those enablers go in your life. But yeah, so I think is this time okay? Oh, yep. Sounds like your phone's going off and
Yeah,
kids
sorry
are
about
kids are
that.
getting out of
Time to get
school.
the kids.
Okay, well, thank you for coming.
All
I think
right.
everything was going well. So I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Yep.